Welcome back to today's episode of Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Ciuci from Town of Winchester PD in Connecticut, 32 years total in law enforcement. Welcome to the show, Chief Ciuci. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Paige.
Of course. So, give us some background. I was looking through your bio and you've accomplished a lot throughout your career. So, give us a little bit of insight into yourself and your career.
Yeah, sure. So my career started back in 1994. I spent 29 years with my first department, and it was a medium-sized department, 65 employees total, about 48 sworn. And for the past 3 years, I've been in the town of Winchester, serving as their chief. And it's been great. A lot of challenges we've been working through. Wound up hiring 12 officers. We're authorized for 21 sworn. Wound up hiring 12 officers since January of 2024. So we've had quite a bit of turnover, but we have a nice young um, core group of officers, and we're looking to hang on to them now.
Thank you. And the first question I want to ask you is really about yourself and in leadership. Have you found it hard to manage work life, home life? And maybe what advice do you have for anyone who aspires to be a leader, to be able to take care of themselves so you can have a long and successful career?
Yeah, I think when I started back in 1994, the people at the police academy really made an impression on me, and I remember them talking back then about, you have to keep your friends who are non-law enforcement, and they scared put the little scare tactics in us too, and they said these, they talked about heart disease and all the things, the negative sides of the job that could affect you if you let it. And it really made an impression on me at that young age. So throughout my career, I've really tried to lead by example. I've always been active. I brought forward initiatives at the places I've worked that really brought us together as a team. And you see a different side of people when they're doing an initiative that has to do with wellness or health. Um, that's been great.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's funny because I think people say that, whatever you learn in the academy, you should just unlearn it immediately. And you're like, no, everything they taught me in the academy, I took to heart and I made sure that I was proactive with my wellness.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
did
I
dividends.
question them. I'm like, what am I getting myself into? But I love this. I wouldn't have stayed in this profession for 32 years if I didn't love what I do. And I kind of live vicariously through our staff here now because they're doing some amazing things, and I want to give them as much support as I can. And dealing with the stressors of the job and developing the culture of an organization is someplace where you want to work and you feel supported. Um, that's what I enjoy doing now.
Love it. Thank you.
You hold a master's degree in leadership and have made leadership a cornerstone of everything from recruitment to character development. So, can you tell us and elaborate a little bit more about that? And do you believe great leaders are born or are they actually developed through experience and mentorship?
I would say it's a learnable skill. I think leadership is a verb. It's about taking action, and you learn about leadership every day. The way we kind of instill it in our organization, we screen for it at the entry level on our applications, and during our oral panel testing where we're interviewing applicants, we ask them about leadership and give us examples of where you've demonstrated leadership. And so it starts there. We evaluate it in our performance evaluations. We reward it through our employee recognition programs. And really, if you're striving to be a supervisor or a member of our command staff, it's mandatory. You have to lead by example. We try to create a culture of action here. And like I said, leadership, there's many definitions for it, but um, the easiest way I explain it, it's a verb. It's about action. It's about doing the right thing, and we encourage it from everyone here, and we see it from it has nothing to do with rank. We see it at all levels of our organization, and that's what we want. We want to develop the next leaders of our department. It's okay to follow too.
Yeah, I love that. I agree. I mean, you had mentioned through employee recognition program that you have. So that sounds like, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah. So read a book. David Novak, he was a CEO of Yum Brand Foods. I don't know if you're familiar, but he was really big on employee recognition. They did a lot of research on it, and they said most people, say they don't get enough recognition at work, and they talked about how it really is a performance motivator, and you don't want it to be you want it to be a legitimate recognition, not just participation trophy stuff. So we started a program. It's a peer-based program. We call it our BOLO program, Beyond the Lookout. So we have a mechanism where any member of our staff, sworn or civilian, if they see someone, a leadership doing something, it's the winter time and they cleared all the snow off of everybody's car so they didn't have to do it before they went home, or just something as minor as that, they could submit through our BOLO program. Just, hey, this person did a nice thing, or I was on a call with this officer and it was a domestic violence situation and they were eating dinner, and while that was going on, the dog wiped out their meal that was on the table, and they didn't have food, and they ordered out, and they didn't have a vehicle to get there, so the officer wound up driving them to pick up their food afterwards. So just little things that have big impact in our community. And on a monthly basis, we have an officer of the quarter, and then we have partners in our community who donate a gift certificate to Dairy Queen for some ice cream, or a lunch on them, or a coffee here and there. And throughout the month, we'll pick out a couple of people and recognize them in our roll calls and give them a little token of appreciation for being recognized by their peers. But what it really does, it captures stuff that the supervisors don't see. And certainly stuff that I don't see. I'm not on these calls for service. I'm not out as much as I'd like to be out in the community, but the peers are seeing what their coworkers are doing, and they're recognizing that and making us aware of it. So it's worked out great.
It sounds like you're making a culture
Mhm.
of action and looking out for each other, and I think that's contagious. I think that leading by example is the best way to create positive change and impact. I've talked about this before on the podcast, but anytime in my life I've tried to force someone to do something, it's never a good thing. But if you lead by example, I think people will be inspired by that and they want to follow suit. And I also think that people want to feel valued for the work and the effort that they do put in. So I love that you guys are recognizing that. I saw this quote that I really liked, and it said, "Education without action is just a meeting." And I was like, yeah, I mean, we can talk about leadership all day long. You can say, like, these are the qualities of being an excellent leader, and we could sit in an hour-long meeting where we just list off all of the things that are going to make you great. But if you don't implement it, if you don't take action, it's just a meeting. It really doesn't have any substance behind it. So for you guys to say, hey, we're going to reinforce and we're going to incentivize action, I think that's the key.
Yeah, it is the key. And you're talking about some challenges, we have is like our staff that we put in long hours. We're away from our family. So when we try to do wellness initiatives, I get it. Sometimes, we don't get as many people doing it because, they already give so much and are here so much that they want to go home to their families. So I think one thing I'd like to try to improve upon is incorporating the families into our wellness programs here, because it serves a dual purpose. I know you do some of it with the work you're doing as well, but I think it serves that dual purpose. It's like, okay, well, I'm participating in this initiative at work, but I'm doing it with my family. So you're getting the best of both worlds. You got your work family and your family.
Yeah.
So I think that could be something for down the road. I'd like to see more of that, and really mentor programs too. I don't really hear I love mentor programs, but I don't really hear them connected with wellness programs. And I think if you had a mentor program and You have a new officer that might not sign up to do the a wellness initiative or 5-week challenge or whatever you're doing. Their mentor could put a little peer pressure on them and say, "Hey, I'm doing it. You're doing it too." Just make them feel more connected and get them more involved.
I've always said that if you have, I draw it, I don't know why I always think of this, it's so nerdy, but did you ever watch Finding Nemo?
Yeah, of
You have
course.
kids watch Finding Nemo,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're like, do you have your exit buddy? And they kind of like pair up to do the thing that's like maybe uncomfortable or scary. I think having accountability partners is so important, and I
yes.
always encourage people to do that. Like, especially if you're not the kind of person who is going to do it yourself, if you need more of that kind of hands-on or that little push, having someone, and I always put it in simple examples. Like maybe you have a personal trainer that you work out with, and that is the only way you're going to get your butt in the gym. Like you're not going to do it on your own, but you know that if they're waiting for you or if you're paying them to do it, you're going to be there. How can you find those buddies either within your organization or outside of the organization that's going to help you to succeed, and to take action in things that maybe you otherwise wouldn't? So I love the idea of how can you create mentorship programs? How can you have accountability partners? And I agree with you on the families. I think that that's something I'm starting to notice kind of waves within the wellness space. The more conversations we have, we start to notice the priorities, and family and home wellness, I think, is one of those waves that we're seeing right now. And there's a lot of conversation around it of how can we um, provide more resources, more training, more education? How can we involve the families more? And I actually just had a podcast a little bit ago, and the chief said that it's not just spouses, because someone might not have a spouse at home. They're saying, how can we support the primary support system within the household? So if it's, maybe you live with a brother or a sister or your mom or your dad, it might not be a spouse, but it's the primary support system in the home. How can we support them? Because we know that you're offloading things on them, but then we also want them to be educated to look for signs and early detection.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Yeah. I did
Yeah.
want to ask you about recruitment and retention. You are an expert and you have the secret sauce. So, you
Yeah.
said you have a younger generation. What are you finding that the younger generation are looking for when it comes to hiring? How do you keep people? What is the secret?
I think the secret is really our officers and our staff are probably our best recruiters and judges of character. So they are involved in the hiring process to see if someone is a good fit. We have challenges where we are in Winchester, financial challenges, our building. We can't offer a brand new police department. We're not the highest paid. Our equipment is very good, but there's things we're missing still. So how do you overcome those challenges? And I think it's basically it's the culture that you develop here where I say they're probably sick of me saying it, but like we have mountains and stacks of policies, but I have two basic rules here, and it's work hard and support each other. And that's the culture that we're trying to create here. And I think word of mouth recruiting has worked well. We have, a vision for a new police department down the road. So we focus on, we deal with the hand we're dealt. And we're focusing on how we get better as a department and what's in the future for the department and where we're heading. And really, the community supports us here too. So like we have the community support. We just have to get the financial support to follow through.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
You told me earlier, you're like, I don't know if I'm the expert, but it seems like you are. You guys are fully staffed, and I agree.
I feel lucky really because I don't know how we like. I mean, we're authorized for 21. I'm one of the 21, and I hired 12 officers, and we had retirements. We had a 35-year sergeant leave, a 25-year sergeant leave, and a 20-year sergeant leave within like a 6-month period. And like, how do you replace that? So again, because we have staffing challenges, it's like, well, Well, we invest in training. We have to train these new young officers. So I think that's something for retention and recruitment too. They know we invest in leadership training, investigative training, um, and we invest in wellness too. I think that's a big piece of it. That's something the new generation of employee almost expects.
Have you seen an officer's performance or just outlook in general change because of a program that you've implemented, like physical or mental?
Yeah, last April we did a 5 week challenge. We partnered with a local gym. We brought in nutrition stuff and nutrition services, and it was a challenge. And I think the biggest change I see is like when you got type A personality officers all within the challenge, and for 5 weeks we were making changes to our diet. We were going to the gym. We were doing things we normally didn't do, and we were doing them together and outside of work. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen has the biggest impact, because you get to know people outside of work and you see them doing hard things together. You're still working as a team, and it changes when you come back to work. It changes your relationship. It strengthens the relationship. It strengthens the team, and we had a great time. And again, it's just like we wanted to start. We wanted to do something and then build on it. So I said it really didn't matter how many people signed up for it. We were going to do it, and we wound up having like about a half dozen officers and myself that went through the challenge, and it was great. We will build on it.
What do you, as a chief of police, what is your why when it comes to wellness? Why are these things important to you? I know you said that this is kind of the beginning. You're working on building this up. You want this to be something that's long term and that you're building on in the future. What is the ultimate goal?
Well, I think kind of back where I started, like I see young recruits don't know how this job is going to change them, the things that they're going to see, the things they're going to have to deal with, sleep habits, eating habits, fatigue. We have to support them and give them the tools to deal with that stuff. And I think a lot of them come in naive and don't realize it. This job makes you grow up quick. Like I said, I was 23 when I got hired, and you grow up quick. And we're hiring officers 21, 22, 23, 24 right now. So I definitely know what they're going through, and I think that's why back when I started, maybe we didn't have as much focus on officer health and wellness. Certainly, the 21st Century Task Force has brought it to the forefront. I think it's definitely rolling now.
Do you think that that you think about that? Do you think that you try to remember where you came from in order to support the people who are coming in today?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a like I said, I wouldn't have stayed in this line of work if I didn't love it. But you have to know how to deal with some of this stuff because it's not normal. What we do is not normal. And I say it in our swearing in ceremonies, you have to have guts to do this job, and it's extremely rewarding, but there are side effects, and you have to be able to deal with those side effects. And you can deal with those side effects, and you can do it effectively.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
If you can go back to that age as these new generations are coming in, what would you wish that you had back then that you may be able to provide to that generation?
We're a lot smarter now than we were back then. I mean, back then it was it was old school. I would describe it as where you had to prove yourself. Certain things you didn't talk about. But on the flip side, I think there was just always a different version of mentorship back then and a different version of wellness back then. I remember when I first started, I had a sergeant kind of took me under his wing, and we're in New England. We were both skiers. I wasn't a really good skier. He was, and he's like, "We're going skiing." So, but I think it was really a test too, because we went out there and he wanted to see if I had the guts to go down a black diamond that I had no business going down. And like I went down, and I think that was kind of the test and the mentoring, but I'll never forget that. and it strengthened our relationship. And God rest his soul. Like he was my favorite supervisor. Taught me a lot of leadership lessons along the way too.
Do you think that that is missing from today? Like, do you think that that camaraderie outside of the job is missing? I've talked to a lot of chiefs and I know you're trying to focus on this, right? You're trying to
Yeah,
have like connections outside of the job, doing hard things together. But do you feel like everyone is kind of scattering and doing their own thing and you're missing that connective component?
yeah, I think a little bit because like we're a small department, so like we're pretty close. But like I completely understand, like because we're not staffed properly, um, that they're putting in a lot of hours. So outside of work stuff sometimes goes by the wayside. And I think if there was less actual work going on and they had more discretionary off duty time, then they'd be more involved, and um, it would help in that regard, maybe.
I think you should go on a team outing and take everyone down a Black Diamond and see how it goes.
See who goes, yeah. But like I said, there's probably a different version of that.
Right.
Bungee jumping. Again, doing these crazy workouts, these high intensity workouts. Doing a Murph workout. Um, things like that. Like who has the guts to do it? Who's going to do it? Who's part of the team? Who's going to try? And seeing your coworkers, cheering each other on to get it done. And
Yeah.
it's good stuff. I love it. That's what really drives me.
Did you ever see that documentary? It was about, I don't know if you're a sports person, but it was about the Cowboys. Did you ever watch that on, I think it was on Netflix.
It's not ringing a bell. No.
I don't know why I can't think of the owner's name,
Who on that?
Jones or
Jerry Jones.
Jerry
Yeah.
Jones, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really about one specific year, or maybe like one specific like period of time of this group and this team.
Okay.
And it talked about the owner, and I thought it was really interesting that he was like a rags to riches, type of person. But there was this one particular team that was unstoppable. And they were just winning game after game, like Super Bowl after Super Bowl. And they were like the best. Like everyone was like, how are we ever going to beat this team? And they showed that they were actually like really good friends. They were getting into trouble, like don't recommend the things that they were doing for sure.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
whole point was that they were like they actually genuinely liked each other and they were friends and there was this like connectedness between them that made them unstoppable. Like their missions were accomplished every single time. And so you reminded me of that, of like, how do we encourage that? How do we create that bond, so that you guys can be as successful as possible and you can accomplish all of the missions that you set out to accomplish, and I think that what you said earlier about like work hard, but also support each other. How do you create that environment within an organization so that you guys can, be as successful as possible? And I think a lot of chiefs are asking that question, how do we create that
Yeah.
unbreakable bond?
That's interesting you say that because I didn't see that series. I'll look for it now, but I'm familiar with those cowboy teams and the owner.
Mhm.
But I always look at the relationship between professional sports coaches and law enforcement because there is a like this is a team game here. Public safety is a team sport, and I see like there's different stakes obviously, but I look at head coaches, leadership styles, team building things that these head coaches are doing, and it translates in this line of work for sure. Um, as part of my master's work, Dr. Howard Farrow wrote a book, "Lead Me Out to the Ball Game," and he went to spring training for Major League Baseball teams. And I'm a baseball fan as well. And he interviewed players and managers about leadership and how what they do in Major League Baseball can translate to any field. So, and my prior employer, we did some leadership training with that too. But again, I mean, wellness and leadership, all this stuff is interrelated. Is making more confident healthy, mentally strong officers. So I don't know. That's it. I've always been a leadership junkie, and I still am. So I like hearing these stories, whether it's sports or any other. For a period of time too, like law enforcement was very siloed. Like it was like, we didn't look at the private sector for anything, and it's like this is how we do it in law enforcement, and things have evolved there too. I think the military did a way better job of leadership development than law enforcement did, but we've certainly caught up. So my first experience to any of the wellness stuff and the leadership stuff was really attending the FBI National Academy back in 2011 down in Quantico, and that's what really got me going with the wellness and the leadership. And but that was like I had already been on the job, 18 years, and like why does it take 18 years of someone's career to first being exposed to this type of leadership training? Like it should be exposed at the police academies and throughout your careers, and we're getting there for sure.
I agree. I actually had a thought today. I'm preparing for a presentation. I'm doing a chief conference, and I always talk about how law enforcement are professional tactical athletes. And before working in law enforcement, I worked with professional athletes, so I draw a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
And I had this thought today. I was like, imagine, it's so funny that you said this about like coaching. I was like, imagine you are the coach of a professional football team, and your key players are getting 4 hours of sleep. They're chugging energy drinks. They're eating fast food with every meal. They're not warming up. And then they go out in the field and they get injured, and you're like, what happened? Like, why are they out for a season? And it's like, that would
Great.
never happen. Like, in a professional sports setting, that would never happen. Like, they are focusing on how can we be proactive? How can we make sure you have the tools to sleep better, to eat better, to perform better physically, mentally, so that you can win the game, so that you can be successful. And I was just thinking about that today. I'm like, I think that you guys are very much the coach and the head of the organization. And so, how can we have these conversations and resources to set everyone up for success? And we make sure that, they're getting as much sleep, or at least quality sleep, that, they're eating better. I know you guys focused on that with your challenge. How can we make sure that we're providing resources so that physically they're not only fit, but also mobile and pliable so we can reduce injuries? So, I literally had that thought today. I'm like, that would
Yeah.
never happen in a sports team. They wouldn't be like, why did Tom Brady get injured after not sleeping and eating like crap and not warming up? It's like, duh.
It's so interesting, and I was out at the IACP conference in Denver, the Chiefs conference, and they had people from the Detroit Lions talking about like to cops about what they're doing in their wellness programs and sports psychology and the correlations and really the partnerships. Like we should be doing that here. The Yale football team. I know Dante Reno was the former head coach, and I would listen to him on leadership podcasts what he was doing with those teams, and it's amazing stuff. But it's like, all right, well, you have to. Where's the action? Like, why aren't we reaching out? Like, maybe we just come out for a talk or do something.
Yeah.
Like, take advantage of those resources here in Connecticut
Yeah. 100%. I
and
know
the
we're
tri-state area because like sports teams were a little challenged in Connecticut, but
yeah, yeah. Well, Arizona too. No, Cardinals have never won
yeah.
a game like ever in their whole like life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I know we're going to be butting up on time. Jess, did you have any other questions before we kind of close out and ask our final question?
I don't think so.
Perfect. Well, then we're going to ask that final question for the
Sure.
younger generation. What words of wisdom would you share with them that you wish you would have known when you were younger?
Well, I was trying to hold back because I was thinking about this the entire time, but like really, it's this is one of the greatest jobs in the world, but if it will eat you alive if you let it. So it's really our job as leaders to provide the support and the tools we can to make sure that doesn't happen to ourselves and to our coworkers. So we have that conversation with all our recruits that are coming off field training. I hand them a book, Emotional Survival, written by Dr. Gil Martin, and we talk about that. And I say, just read one chapter a night give it to a significant other. We talk about peer support, but that's what I tell them. I said, this job will eat you alive if you let it. So don't let it. And that's what I would tell them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on here today and joining.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I love the work you guys are doing. And really, like, so what I was going to ask you is like how many chiefs have you spoken to right now?
Over 400.
Yeah. So you actually have the secret sauce. Well, what are the successful departments doing? And we didn't touch on it in the talk, but like I do that accreditation work. So I've been to 43 police departments, all different sizes, from St. Petersburg. I've been Colorado. I haven't been to Arizona yet, but and I've seen we're doing accreditation work, but I've seen these wellness programs, and like you see some amazing stuff. So like I'm fortunate because I have that perspective, but you really have heard it all now. So what stands out? What's the secret sauce, or where are we going next with this stuff?
That's a great question. So I would say that it seems to me, and I'm going to preface this so that I don't have eyes on the inside, right? So I think that having a conversation, on the outside versus the realities of the inside, I don't know. I don't have an insight onto the inside workings of each organization, but I will say it seems to me like the most successful organizations are starting with culture first. How do we create an environment where people want to come to work? What does that look like? I think that what you talked about um, making people feel valued, recognizing the hard work that they do, making people feel like they're human and they're not just another cog in the wheel, has helped to build the foundation for what is next. I think a lot of the successful agencies are not afraid to try things and see if it works. And if it works, continue. If it doesn't, and they're not afraid to try to implement things. And then I think just having a deep mission and why you're doing things, to continue to build on stuff. But I don't know if I could say there's one specific thing that makes everybody successful, or one specific resource that makes everyone successful. But to me, it seems like the ones that focus on culture, building that culture first, have had more success with getting the buy-in and creating successful programming on top of it. I guess
Well, so I appreciate you reaching out and inviting me.
thank you for your time. We really do appreciate you coming
No,
on.
thank you, Paige. It's great meeting you. And if
Yeah,
you need anything down the road, you let me know.
sweet. Sounds good. Thank you.